Hi everyone, I am Adele, and welcome back to Inside Singapore Sports Business. ISSB is the show that features key opinion leaders in Singapore's sports and fitness industry. Today we are at TFX Fitness Gym at Pacific Plaza, and we will be speaking about fitness industries and trends in Singapore. So let's get pumping. So it is now my pleasure to introduce our two very lovely guests today. We have Ms. Laila White, MD at Fitness Best Asia Awards and CEO and founder of Achieve, as well as Mr. Sean Tan, President and co-founder of SFA, Singapore Fitness Alliance, and Director of True Group. Welcome and thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us, Adele.
I'm so excited to talk to the both of you. You have such this wonderful energy and vibe. Once I walked into this space, I was like, oh, exciting. I felt pumped already. But let us introduce you guys to our audiences first. Maybe we'll start with Laila. Laila, can you tell us a little bit about your personal background, where you came from, how you got started?
Wow, I started 28 years ago. I'm a Singaporean. I started after I gave birth in the fitness industry at home. With my first child. So my daughter was a year old and now she's 27 and the second one is 25. So I started because I saw my brother that came back from national service and he has this body of Bruce Lee. And I was like, wow, how do I get there, right? To that look. So he taught me at home with a couple of dumbbells and a mini stepper. I know that you're too young to remember the mini stepper where it's just this high and I was dead. But then when my daughter was asleep, I would go from 5 minutes to 10 minutes and then I got interested and I went to Singapore Sports Council to get my education from basic just to start off out of interest. And then from there, it leads on to becoming a personal trainer and aerobics trainer.
Wow. Like disclaimer, ISSB is not responsible for any cognitive dissonance that our audience might have in trying to wrap their heads around how you look and you saying that you started 28 years ago.
Yes,
like,
so I'm 54.
You look like you're 28.
Oh, thank you. I look like I'm 54 and I think that being 54, we have a lot, in our 50s and our 40s, we have a lot of opportunities and options to look better, feel better. So whenever somebody says you look like 30s or 20s and I say, no, I look like 54. This is, we are capable of looking and feeling great about ourselves. Yeah.
So then how did that develop professionally after you became a trainer? Then how did you go on to start some of your other businesses?
So I started as a personal trainer. So I run 3 companies, which I fully own. One is Elite Fit, Laila White, and Achieve. And recently, I'm a co-founder of Fitness Best Asia Awards. So Elite Fit falls under personal training, gym design, creating gyms. So I've designed and create gyms for hotels, about 15 gyms worldwide, and homes globally. And also, I have the first kids indoor playground, first in Singapore, that's inside the National Library. It's built for the community. We are here to promote Learn Through Play. And the second company, Laila White Private Limited, is all giving back to the community, passing it forward. So I run a lot of outreach programs with Tampines Hub. So we run classes from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., Tai Chi, Qigong. So I have a whole bunch of trainers that are a part of giving back to the community. So the third one, what I say is the 2 components equals to the third one, which is fitness, mindfulness, and spirituality. So I have a TV show that I launched in 2019 and I took it to Indonesia and it was rated number 1 in Indonesia for the first season, and I'm looking into doing events for the community. And then we launched Fitness Best in 2017. I'm sorry, Sean, it's a lot. 2017, we are the first fitness awards in Asia. So our aim is to promote Asia and people that lives in Asia in the fitness industry, because I truly believe that there are a lot of great trainers and educators in Asia. So our platform is to give them the spotlight.
Right, right, and that's definitely, very important, because otherwise, I know as someone who tried, I would have given up if not for the help and the tips. Because if you just go online, it's just not enough, and you find different information. So definitely having educators makes a big difference.
Right, and Asia is huge. Asia is big. We forget that. Everything that we talk about wellness and fitness, especially nutrition and spices, all comes from Asia. When you talk about yoga, yoga comes from India, and yoga became popular maybe 15 years ago because it was put in yoga pants in the West, and we talk about ginger and turmeric, it all comes from Asia. So what I'm trying to do is to bring back to Asia, and for us to recognize, hey, we've got a lot of stuff, we need to recognize them, we need to own them, and we need to tell the world. Being Asians, normally we are just very shy, we're showing off. So that's our aim at Fitness Best Asia Awards.
Yeah. Okay, we'll be definitely hearing more about that later. And how about you, Sean? Can you please tell us a little bit more about your personal background? You're a Singaporean as well?
I am Singaporean, a lawyer by training, practiced for 12 years and then decided to do something outside of the law. So I've always been very entrepreneurial. I left the law to do something in private equity in Beijing. I did something with coal mining in Indonesia. I was living there for about 4 or 5 years. I've set up a sports management company that focused on football. So we did stuff like bring Real Madrid to China for preseason games. I've done stuff on my own. I've set up the Fandi Ahmad Football Academy for kids with Fandi. I've opened a CrossFit box in Jakarta, which is still running. I've always been involved in sports and fitness. So no matter where my professional work took me, I've always played competitive sports or had an interest in fitness. And I was very fortunate that my parent company actually acquired a majority stake in True Fitness, and they sort of parachuted me in to sit on the board and to help run and manage the business. And that's how I've really got involved from about the end of 2017, in True Fitness.
Wow. And then do you want to tell us a little bit also about the SG Fitness Association?
Yeah, well, that's a great passion project, actually. I'm the co-founder and the inaugural president of the Singapore Fitness Alliance. So Ross Campbell and I, we co-founded the SFA, and this was really brought about by a need for the fitness industry in Singapore to have a voice, to speak to government. This came out during COVID. So when COVID first hit us in 2020, we realized that there were a lot of concerns that were voiced by the industry. And we did not have a collective voice to speak to government, to seek clarification on things like safe distancing protocols, cleaning, disinfecting, and also about financial help and financial relief that was coming from the government, to the industry. So, Ross and I sat down and we mooted the idea of setting up the SFA. And fantastically, we got amazing support from the industry. So today, we launched the SFA in January of 2021. Practically every brand of gym and studio that you can imagine in Singapore, they are our members. And it's great because what we have seen with the setting up of the SFA is, number one, we've seen that the industry has been a lot more open to collaboration. They share their successes, they share their challenges, and there have been a lot, in the last 18 months or so. But it's fantastic because now we have a much more, a collaborative as well, closer working relationship between what probably we were seen as competitors in the past. So I think it bodes very well for the future of the industry. And also with the SFA being formed, we've realized that when we speak to government, it's a lot quicker. The Singapore government has been fantastic in supporting the industry. And it makes things easier for them also when they speak to one body that represents all the businesses in the industry at one go.
Right. So how big is this fitness industry in Singapore? Anyway, what are we talking about?
Well, that's a tough question. I mean, when we set up the SFA and we were trying to figure out the number of businesses, hazarding a guess, I would say we have about between 1,007 to 2,300 fitness businesses in Singapore. But if you're talking about the dollars and cents, the financial size of the industry, your guess is as good as mine. But I will stick my neck out and I will say that it's a few $100 million in size, because you're not only just factoring in things like revenues from the gyms and studios, you're talking about equipment, purchases of equipment that we spend. But I think with COVID and home fitness, and we've all seen how Decathlon has sold out its stock. How much have people spent on all of that? Bikes, and stuff that they can bring into their home, like weights, yoga mats. It's huge, I think, and we're only poised to grow bigger.
What about you, Laila? What's your take on that?
I think fitness is growing. We are also moving towards wellness, right? So we are not just fitness. 28 years ago, every 50 meters there's a gym, whether it's a government gym, condominium, a community center. But now people are more into a holistic way of wellness. So physical fitness is important. We are talking about mental, mindfulness, emotional, social, environment. So if we put it all, it starts with the body. And then comes the mind. You need the mind to be physically active. And then sustainability. People are more conscious, not just about themselves, but the community. So it's a growing business. So if you talk about the fitness, now I always say it's the wellness also. We are moving towards that. But fitness is what gets this movement going.
And you two have one thing in common, a few things in common. One thing that I noticed during your introduction is you both had done business in Indonesia, and I guess regionally. How important do you think Singapore is? Like, what is the role that Singapore plays in terms of this regional, global fitness strategy?
I'll take a stab at that. I think Singapore plays a huge role for fitness in Southeast Asia and Asia, and even up to Asia Pacific. There is a saying in the industry that if your fitness concept can make it in Singapore or Hong Kong, then you have a good chance of making it in the rest of Asia. Singapore, I think, has come to the forefront in recent years in terms of test bedding a huge number of new concepts. We're very, very fast adopters. So whatever you see, that's coming out, that's trending for example, in the States or in Europe or in Australia, within a very short period of time, you'll find that it's here. I mean, it's a very competitive landscape. We've got high rental rates. We've got a very demanding, population, very discerning and demanding at the same time. So if you don't have a product or a service that can be up to the mark, then there's no way you're going to be making it. So then you need to take care of all of these things, which is very interesting because it's a sort of like a test tube experiment. So you'll see in the future, I think, more and more new brands and new concepts coming up in Singapore, and the rest of Asia will look and to see how they do in Singapore before taking those concepts and putting them in those other countries.
Right, and for you as well, Laila, because you started your 28 years of career in Singapore and then you've also ventured it outside. Do you agree with what Sean?
Of course. I think Singapore and Hong Kong also are great models for businesses to look into. And he's absolutely right that we are adapters. We are not, can I say, knowledgeable? Is that dangerous?
Very
in
discerning,
Singapore. So
yeah.
other countries look at us, right? So my business grew from being a personal trainer, and I've never stayed in one box. So from personal training, I did creating gyms and then TV shows. So I took it to Indonesia, but these are all new markets, right? I think Indonesia is going to grow, Philippines, but Singapore is like the hub of fitness in Asia.
And have you both noticed any changes in the way people engage in physical activity? For example, maybe when I was younger, I thought it was just like a CCA thing, something like team sports that you had to do in school. And then I thought, when I'm not in school anymore, I don't have to do this. But no, as an adult, this whole trend of going to gyms and all my friends around me having gym memberships became a thing. Did you notice that, or was it just,
No,
has there been a change in trend?
Absolutely spot on. I think it's become very much a lifestyle kind of thing. So it's not just going to the gym and getting fit for health reasons. It is that, but it's a lot more as well, especially amongst the young today. With the rise of, for example, athleisure, Lululemon tights and everything else, right? So even though you might not be a gym bunny or a serious yogi, you'd probably have a pair of yoga pants in your wardrobe, and you're out there, you're sipping your lattes or your chai lattes, in athleisure. And you talk about that. I know my kids, for example, they talk about what they've been doing for their workouts, which gyms they're going to. It becomes part of that whole social element, which is very, very important for the sustainability of the industry in any case. But I think with that, it's great because it's become more commonplace. It's definitely, more accepted. And I guess for us running businesses, it makes it easier to sell what we're selling.
How about you, Laila? Do you think that the types of physical activities you have noticed people now being involved in has changed from before?
Yeah, I think so. If I were to go back during school, right, and like you said, from CCA, and I hated CCA. I hate running after the school bus or whatever it is, and now I'm the opposite. But I see the trends of when it first started, it's all bodybuilding, going to the gym, and now we have the Jane Fonda. I know it's before your time. The Jane Fonda trends, right? You started the group exercises with the leg warmers and the headbands. Yes, trust me, it was there. So then we have the gym, and then we have the group exercise. But then as time passes by, nowadays you see it's combining, where there's no longer one-to-one personal training, but it's a group fitness like CrossFit, functional training. So it has changed, but we have a lot of more selection of exercise, not just the step aerobics, but you have the Zumba, you have the Pilates on the mat, you have Tai Chi, Qigong. Now it's part of an exercise activity. So we are so lucky that fitness is not just in one small tiny box, but it's just incredible movement. Whatever you can come and think of and create is just movement, and it equals to fitness.
And I guess since the pandemic hit us, there has been a different kind of education about working out at home. Earlier you mentioned decathlon being sold out. What do you think about this trend? Do you think it will continue now that people have gotten around the idea of home workouts? Do you think this trend will continue even after Singapore opens up more?
I think online digital fitness is here to stay. I mean, there's no doubt about that. There was a time in 2020 when people thought that was going to take over, the physical in-club experience, right? But I think we now know, and this is from all over the world, that digital fitness is not going to take over. It's still going to be around. I think our members are going to sort of expect it. If they are a member in a gym, they want to know, one of the things that they will ask is, oh, do you have online workouts? Can we stream some of our workouts? Have you got any pre-records? Can I do some of my stuff at home? So we need to have that now. But I think we know also, even from our own experience from True Fitness, we've got all that online option, but people would very much like to come back into the gym. There is that demand. It's a huge demand. And I would say it's a pent-up demand. As soon as the government restrictions are eased, I think we'll see that our doors are flooded. We'll have more demand than we can manage, actually. And I think that again, is a great position to be in for the industry. I think we all now have, we've endured about 18, 19 months of living, with the pandemic. But I think everybody has seen that there is light at the end of the tunnel. We already start to see it. And I think we're just looking forward to that day when, restrictions can be lifted. Hopefully, it will be back to what it was pre-COVID. I doubt it, but, hopefully quite close. And we will enjoy coming back and working out together.
But how has this impacted businesses? So now businesses have to be ready for when restrictions are lifted and being able to give the same kind of experience or very similar type of experiences that we all crave, as you mentioned, but they also have to provide an added service that did not exist before. Like if people truly are expecting a gym and a gym membership to come with digital experience as well, it's almost like now you have to add on this extra service for free.
It's definitely an extra cost to the business, but I always say our industry is a very innovative and creative one. And we've got to constantly evolve to meet the needs of the consumer. And I think the pandemic has shown us that they are expecting us to have online options. So we already have that. Now it's, I would say, is how we move to the next step. How do we get people to pay extra or pay something else to help to defray some of those additional costs that we've had to incur? But then, many of us are already running it out and we're not charging extra for it. It's bundled together with your membership and it's here to stay. So one way or the other, we've got to make it happen. We've got to make it work. But I think it's going to be all right.
What do you think, Laila?
Well, I think people are zoomed out. Everybody. I started at home 28 years ago, exercising. So then I experienced the gym. So I love being at the gym because there's more option. I don't have a lot of equipment in the house. During the pandemic, it was a necessity. People start realizing that having a balanced life is an option that they should be looking at. But we are living in Singapore, tight spaces. You have families living with you, in HDBs, 2-3 people. So it's not feasible. But we make do. But once the gym opens up, everybody will flock into the gym. But also the safety-wise, when you work out at the gym with a trainer, it's different. Then I know it's been promoted digitally. The trainers are looking at you, but it's not the same. It's the hands-on, the attention given by your trainer. Those are the important aspects of being physically at a environment like the gym.
Yeah.
Adele, if I can just add on, there used to be this concept called the third space. The first space was our homes. The second space was our office. And the third space was whatever the third space was for you. For some, it was the gym. For some, it was the bar. For some, it's a park. But with what we're seeing in COVID, when you have your first and your second space sort of merging, right, and you don't have that going to the office kind of thing, why did these three kind of spaces sort of, that concept, how did that emerge? It's because I think people realize that we all need some time alone, away from our loved ones, away from the family, away from the wife, and sometimes you don't want them to know what you're doing, not because you're hiding anything, but sometimes I've heard from members, they don't want to see their husbands, watching them while they're doing, a high intensity, workout in front of the TV. So they're quite happy to go and get away to the gym, do it with their friends over there. So with that, actually gyms are and studios are in kind of an interesting space. If you see that your first and your second space are merging, we actually are positioned to be that second space. So what happens if gyms become a more welcoming environment where people would come back in and say, hey, that's my time where I can work out, I can do my stretch, I can get my massage or whatever it is, but it's your time away from your workplace, away from your home. I think it's an interesting time.
Yes, it is. And I think, for me at least, it helped me realize that there's always a very social element to sports and fitness, right? We say that it's time that we take away from work, from from loved ones, but while you're immersed in the sport, whether it's a team sport or whether you're with that trainer, that social interaction for your fitness journey is so important. We also see a lot of Singaporeans now taking to hiking and cycling. It's all the rage. Do you think it's purely because of the pandemic, or do you think that this was a trend that would have happened anyway?
For me, I think the pandemic gave it the limelight. My question is, when everything is lifted, will people still be continuing to do this? I think the trend that will stay is the gym. People will still go and make time to go to the gym. It's great to go out and see nature, discover, like in Singapore, there's some parts of Singapore that I've never discovered living here for 54 years, right? But I think because of time, we are going back. All this balance that we have found the last 2 years, if we can maintain it, great. But as soon as everything starts opening up, we get busy again, and we will start going back to the gym. I think, if I'm not mistaken, once the gym, even though with the restrictions, it opens up, 54% of people starts coming back to the gym. So it's our second home. It's part of our lifestyle. We need to look into our fitness. So I don't know. Hopefully we will have both to go out in nature, be in touch with nature. So hopefully it stays.
I think we saw the explosion of hiking, biking, running during circuit breaker. Because that was, other than going out to buy food, those were the only exceptions made to allow people out of their homes. And once people got into that habit, I think we saw that rise. People are still into that habit because now 18, 19 months after the pandemic started, we're still in a default work from home. So actually people have more time. They're working, but they might be hiking or having a cycle. But it will be interesting to see what happens if your work hours return more to normality. If, for example, people start going back to the office, leaving only, for example, the weekends for you to go on a cycle or hike, then you've got, I guess, a choke point or bottleneck of timing. Would we see as many cyclists or hikers or runners? That remains to be seen. But I agree with Laila. The one mainstay that has always remained constant are your gyms and studios. And we will still be here. And we've seen every time after a lockdown was lifted, people have come in. Our booking slots have been filled, and it's still the case. So we know that there's a demand.
So we know that fitness and nutrition have often in fact, always goes hand in hand. How do you see the nutritional habits of people in Singapore changing over the last few years?
I think the awareness of nutrition, the different kinds of diets, certainly has been on the rise. And there's a lot more information that's available to everyone. And I think we all go through that cycle where we're either pursuing different goals. So it might be a fat loss goal, or if you just want to look good for a photo shoot, or you're going to get married. So at some point in time, I think most of us would have tried some sort of diet or the other. But in Singapore, my observation is this: food plays a very, very big part in the lives of Singaporeans. And they work out to be able to have their cheat meals. Their cheat meals may not be once every week. It might be a cheat meal every other day or every day, so they work out so that they can have their char kway teow, their chicken rice, their bak chor mee. If you have friends who go on these cycles or these runs, and you find out where their halfway points are, or their stop points, their rest points, or where their end points are, many of them will end up in food places. Some hawker center, some place which is great for prata, but that's Singapore. But that doesn't mean that that's a bad thing. In fact, it is what makes your fitness regime sustainable. And that's really what we want to be doing. You want to find something that works for you, that you can sustain over a longer period of time, so that you can work out regularly, you can stay healthy, still stay fit, and still have your cheat meals, still enjoy a glass of beer after a hard workout. And I think that's what that's my takeaway from all of that when I look at Singaporeans, their workout regimes, and their focus still on food. Not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing at all. Although I must say that there's also a lot more awareness now about maybe combating sugar. But you're right, as Singaporeans, we don't give up our comforts easily. I have not quit my bubble tea habit. I just go zero sugar.
No, but I think I totally agree with Sean, because it's to be able to sustain. And at the end of it, it's your lifestyle, right? You work out to enjoy your life, but sometimes not too much. But, unless you are a bodybuilder, you have a competition, it's a different goal. But if we are social creatures, after you work out, we have a glass of wine and we sit and we talk about it. That's how we connect. And it's also balancing. So for me personally, if I have a bad intake of food today and tomorrow I'm aware, so I will, watch what I eat. So because I'm not in competition, I want to enjoy life. I want to be functional in my lifestyle. So that makes a lot more sense and is also sustainable.
In such a consumer-oriented industry that both of you are in, do you see your businesses having to adapt to these kinds of trends that perhaps the consumer might start to be more and more conscious about?
The COVID pandemic, for me, it has changed a little bit with the way I create gyms. Now, the way we create gyms is respiratory resilience, meaning, social distancing. Also, we would have an outside. I know that we discussed this short, that in Singapore, it's a bit too hot, right? But there's an outdoor that people want to train just in case, touch wood, there's another pandemic going on. And hygiene. What I love about the COVID that happens is people are more aware. They wipe down the equipment and they don't crowd around, and also limited numbers. So we had to cut down our numbers at our kids' indoor playground. So our capacity at one stage is 70, but now we have to cut down to 35, and we do time slots just like the gym. So every hour, 15 minutes, we will have to clean the place up. So the demands are there. We want our customers to feel safe to come in because they are afraid, right? And the only way to make them feel comfortable and for your business is to adapt.
I know earlier we discussed how businesses have to now adapt digitally. What about in these areas, the nutritional area? Because I think, we see that the consumers in Singapore are very trend savvy. And when we research something, when the knowledge is given, we start asking establishments for it.
I think as a business, we always have to adapt to what the changing needs of the consumer are. But the caveat to that is we will always make the decision to adapt or change only when it makes commercial sense to us. So if it's something which is unsustainable because it's just too expensive, for example, then we might not do it. But if it's something which is which the consumer really wants, we will do it. For example, we at True Fitness we have a tie-up with a food provider, so you can do your planning of your food. You can order your meals in advance. They'll deliver it to your home. You can bring it along with you. You pop it into a microwave, and you can have your meal. The number of calories is stated there. So we want to sort of make it easy. We're not an F&B organization. We will not have the whole slew of options for them, but we will certainly try to accommodate. And we see many of our members, for example, they'll bring their food along. They've meal prepped and they bring it along. They consume it, after their workouts or before their workouts, and that's absolutely fine. They will ask our trainers from time to time about advice on diets. And our trainers are equipped to give them that advice as well. But yeah, I think what COVID has also shown us is, as a business, we're extremely adaptable. My team, for example, has had to, switch out the configuration of all our gym equipment at a moment's notice, with spacing different, once it's 1 meter apart, another time it's 2 meters apart. And then you have to, lock people in with certain temperature checks. Sometimes you don't need that or whatever else. And then you've got Trace Together, which is implemented. But what all of this has shown us is the team is extremely adaptable. They're amazing for doing that. And I think we all know, all the businesses in Singapore are very, very comfortable now in being able to adapt to changes at last minute notice. It's not the best for us, but we can do it if it's called upon us.
Yeah, no, I think we've all seen that. I think it's amazing what businesses can do, and has the training that we've had for the last 2 years. I'm excited to see what comes next. Speaking of that, what do you guys think is the future for the sports and fitness industry in Singapore? 2022 and beyond.
Huge. I would say that what COVID has, I think, been important for us is it's highlighted the importance of health and fitness in boosting one's immunity. And that's the best help that you can give yourself. It's not going to get that third booster shot. That will help. But if your underlying immunity is already strong and you don't have other underlying conditions, I think it preps you well. And that's the reason why we've seen this huge uptick in people just going out and doing some sort of workout. For me, although I run a gym chain, it's not necessarily the case that somebody has to come into the gym to get fit. Whatever you're doing is going to be good for you. The Singapore Fitness Alliance, we ran a campaign recently, which was just to get everybody to move. So it's like Move More Singapore. As long as you're moving, doing one sort of exercise or the other, like Laila says, there are so many different exercise modalities. It's yoga, it's Pilates, it's coming into the gym, it's running, it's hiking. Go and do something rather than to sit down on your couch and just couch surf or channel surf, So I think the industry is going to be huge. I mean, McKinsey recently said that the size of the market worldwide is $1.5 trillion and set to grow by 5 to 10% yearly. But that's the wellness space. Fitness is part of that. But to be honest, it could be even bigger than that. I've seen numbers which have been battered around, which are closer to the $3 trillion mark. All I know is I think the future is very bright. And we're just very privileged to be part of that industry, to be able to offer that service, which is very, very much needed. We've said continuously to the Singapore government, and we're very happy that they've heard us. We've said that, we want to be part of the solution. We see ourselves as the fitness industry as part of the healthcare continuum. Why? And if we can play an even bigger or more active role in that, that would be fantastic.
Right. We also see, a lot of fitness fans turned professional. So more and more people are taking up the sport. For example, when yoga was all the rage, a lot of people started attending yoga classes and then becoming licensed instructors themselves. Do you think this is a trend that will continue? We'll see more and more people wanting to become personal trainers, fitness trainers.
Well, I'm all for that, provided that they are all certified. I think people are looking at the pandemic brings a lot of options for people, right? In the sense that what else do they do? It's a passion. Like for me, it started as a passion, so I can't deny that there are people out there that finds this out as a passion too. I think it's fantastic. The word spreads from one person that just loves yoga and become a trainer. It's fantastic. It's contagious. I hope it's contagious. It's probably growing, but let's just watch. I just want to watch when the whole world opens up. Maybe it can be a part-time job, but I remember when I first started 28 years ago, there were only three outdoor trainers. We were called outdoor trainers, and 3 of them are women. I was one of them. So we moved from one place to another. So we travel around Singapore.
There were only 3?
Yeah, 3 women,
wow.
But most of them are attached in the gym. And I remember the guys that told me that as a personal trainer, the family didn't agree for them to become a personal trainer. They want them to be in the business, in the office, in the banks and stuff like that. But now people are respecting trainers, so they want to be part of that. So hopefully, there'll be more trainers and we can educate each other. I hope, from my own personal view, is there's a lot of community contribution from trainers to give back to society. That's my whole hope for the fitness industry.
So, and you also work with kids, with communities. Where do you see the future of this fitness and community going 2020 and beyond?
I see it going huge. I think people are becoming aware. It all changes because I came from a village, a kampong. So community was part of our lifestyle. The whole village looked after us. If you do something wrong, my neighbor will come and smack me in my head. My mother would just laugh. But there was a feeling of looking out for each other. So now we have put it in a city where communities are being built. But I see a lot, like when we do outreach programs at Tampines Hub, people just come, for Tai Chi, Qigong, and the interaction. They don't feel alone. We are talking about people that are 60s and above, and they stay home. And this is something for them to be active. And Singapore is about creating a healthy nation. So I see it growing, and I hope it grows more and more, especially with kids. I think kids should be playing outside. The mindset of kids just, being in a computer, it's a bit contradicting now, but, I hope the kids are more active to be outside and mingling and playing sports. So I hope it grows, community interaction grows stronger.
Yeah, I think we do have a lot to look forward to. Right now we're almost at the end of 2021. I think we do have a lot to look forward to in the fitness industry, 2022 and beyond. Thank you both so much for your time and for sharing with us today. We hope to speak to you again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Odell.
Thank you. We hope you have enjoyed our conversation today with Laila and Sean about the fitness industry. Thank you for joining us, and make sure you join us again next time for another episode of ISSB.